into a real fight wasn't right. Where can she dream here?
Everybody, how's it going? It is Wednesday night, which means packed. The podcasting for all coming together. My name is Zach Clayton. I am the president and founder of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I want to welcome you all to a very unique show. This is our third Wednesday of the month, which means it's part of our Community Pay It Forward One Hope Wine event. And our featured guest this month, Patric Myers, really wanted to focus on his journey from where he was to where he is now. So you're going to be hearing from a few different people that we've got waiting in the wings. And so we are extremely excited about this. It's going to be a little bit different. Of course, we've got the Goddess of the Grape, and we've got a huge portion of Footprints Forward, which is kind of neat. Speaking of Footprints Forward, finally, somebody got off their butt and did it and got something done with it. We now have our website, communitypayitforward.us, Footprints Forward. You can go, you can watch from week 1 of Mayday We Have a Problem up to Monday's show. And then you can watch the recordings of last week's show until this upcoming Monday, when about 30 minutes after the show is over, the new show will be recorded. Of course, if you want to watch live, you can join us right here where you're watching right now. And you can tune in. And this next week's show is going to be really, really interesting. And I think this next week's show really means a lot to a couple of us, because we are pet owners. And we've all had to put down pets before. And we're going to be talking to Courtney Deere, who is a veterinarian. And the numbers for veterinarian suicides are rising. And you got to remember, you're talking about a group of people whose lives is unfortunately putting down animals that are family members. And she has a beautiful, heart-wrenching blog out that she allowed us to share on our blog page. And, the first thing she talks about was when she had to put down an animal for a gentleman who this was the last thing he had from his wife after her passing. So it was, it started there, and it was just a roller coaster from there. And so Courtney's going to be joining us on Monday, and I'm excited to hear about this one. I went and just a couple weeks ago, as many of you guys know, I had to take my Zephyr in to get her neutered. And then, because she is what she is, she ended up tearing out the sutures. So she was all split open, and we had to take her back in. And I had just got done reading this blog, and I walked in and I saw the vets there, and I'm already worried about my dog. And I started thinking about how I need to be careful when I'm talking to this vet, because, they're used to people coming in and worrying about their animals and forgetting that they're human beings. So I'm really excited about this. I want to thank Sarah Kuoku for joining us for 2 weeks in a row on Footprints Forward, and just doing a fantastic job on both episodes, and unzip those genes. Don't be a pervert. It's about your genetics. Good Lord. Anyway, really, really interesting on how your genetics plays a huge part in all health. And you can't be in poor health and have good mental health. So it's kind of one of those things that really, really made a lot of sense and tied everything in together. I'm going to stop babbling now because we've got a huge show tonight, and I am very, very pleased to, as always, the first and third Wednesday of every month, bring in this lovely lady, my hero, Stephanie Samos, the goddess of the grape. Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Zach. How are you?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Just getting through today and looking forward to tomorrow.
Today is going to be great. And this week's episode of Footprints Forward is also going to be great. I'm really excited to hear from her. But we have a huge Footprints Forward presence on this show tonight. And I'm really, really excited to have Patric on for the mid-month portion of the show. And, Dennis is here and some other guests. So I feel like we're going to be learning a lot about Patric's journey beyond what we've heard so far tonight.
Yeah, and we kind of cleared out the entire 2-hour show this time because when Patric talks, the passion, I mean, just the passion for what he speaks about is something that is just, there's no BS in it. A lot of times people will throw in filler or something and they'll be talking about it, and all of a sudden you're kind of going, okay, well, you're going a little. Not with Patric. Patric talks, he means what he says, and he's doing so much for so many different people. So I'm really excited about this. And I guess the best way to do this is maybe, how about we bring him on? Mr.
Perfect.
Patric Myers, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for that intro. I'm really humbled by it, to be truly honest. I'm like over here if I was white, I'd be blushing a little bit, but since I'm black, y'all don't see none of that. No, I really want to thank you guys for the opportunity and this platform. And last time I was able to speak, the spotlight was on me, and then when this episode was coming up, I was just like, there's so many people behind me that makes me who I am. And I was just like, I want to be able to give them the opportunity. I want to show the world I'm proud of my team and my people. My girlfriend, Dennis, Colton, Aaron, just so many other people. Joanna's another one. She was on the show not too long ago. My pastor, my church. There's just so many people that I literally could probably spend a month, 2 months just straight talking about them and how I got here. But these are the people that are helping me in the ministry opportunities that I'm going through now, and I wanted to give them a platform, see why I am the way I am and how I became the way I became, and then also they're a part of the journey that I'm on right now, and we're pretty much all on this journey together. We're a bunch of misfits that just kind of ran into each other and was just like, hey, let's do something. and then we're watching God just do absolutely amazing things in our individual lives. And then also together, where it really just doesn't make sense. Like, I had a miracle today that was just, you prayed, sometimes we prayed last night, and then God answered. I had a conversation with Aaron, prayed with my girlfriend, and then got more than what I asked for today. Literally 4 hours before this whole thing comes, and it's a chunk. I'm trying not to cry right now because it's kind of really overwhelming, but I'm just starting over and getting on my feet, literally, and just this thing came in that just helps me do a lot of little things that I've been trying to do, and it's just, God is just so good. And so these people are part of God being good to me, and I want to let them talk about it for themselves.
Well, Patric, one of the things that Community Pay It Forward is run on a saying that nobody has to go it alone when we all come together, and I think that that's something that you're really doing here. When you contacted me, you said, look, I know that this is supposed to be focusing on me, but can I bring on? And I'm like, yeah, this is about you. That's what this is. And if there's one thing about you, like we said earlier, you know, there's no filler with you. It's all mission driven. You do, you know, this is you. This is not, you know, you don't play this guy during work hours and you're someone else after that. That's not who you are. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, we all were driven to you, and is because you know, you wear your heart on your sleeve and you say what you mean. And it doesn't matter if I catch you at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night, you're the same person. And that means a lot to what, you know, Stephanie and I started this show that way, because we wanted to make sure that we were talking to people who are, that's what they are. Okay. This is about bringing to light the people who are doing great things for other people. And Patric, that's you.
You honor me, man, more than I can tell you. And well, you guys are part of my journey now too. So, and I really mean that. Like, just y'all took a chance on me with just coming on the show and whatever. I didn't know that was literally my first podcast ever doing something like that, and it's just done turned into so much lately, and it's opened other doors and opportunities. So, and it's still opening doors and opportunities. And I don't have words, man. I'm just blessed. I'm on for the ride, man. You know, my daddy guy says, hey, he says everything's impossible. Like, there's nothing that's impossible for him. And I really, truly am living that life where it's like the impossible happens every day. And you know, if you don't believe the impossible happens every day, that's your problem. I live it. So, and I want to show the people that's the life they can live too. That's pretty much it.
Well, why don't you go on ahead and why don't you introduce our guests? We've got 3 of them here right now, and we're expecting 1 or 2 more later on in the show. So why don't you go on ahead and bring on your guests?
All right. So we have Dennis. First and foremost, we'll do Dennis, man. Dennis is he's
I recognize that guy.
It's good to be here.
I always call Dennis, he's like the silent killer, man. Like, he's one of those dudes, man, that is like, for a lot of people, he's so unassuming and people take him for granted. I know that's the case in his life. People actually take him for granted. And I'll be honest, in a very short time, he's been one of my greatest friends. And he like the capability, and he's just quiet about it. He just does his thing and stuff like that. And I really wouldn't even be here at this moment in time had this guy had been like, look, dude, I believe in you, man. Like, you need to do this. And we'll talk about how I got to this part, because we talked about the youth initiative, but then this other portion is about the podcasting part that's going to be powering the youth initiative and getting the youth on this stage, because there's going to be youth doing what we're doing right now, and that's going to be coming up really, really soon. And so it all literally started with this guy. I was coming out of another situation where I was just like, I'd been doing this thing for a year, and it was just like, God was like, all right, I got you to this point to give you your confidence and stuff like that back, because like that you are capable, you can do more than what you ever thought possible. Like, everything that happened to you is so I could take you past the point of anything you ever thought before. And that year was God building that in me. And he was like, well, it's time to let this go, and you need to start over. And I'm like, start over doing what? And here comes this guy on a Wednesday, and we're meeting, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of heartbroken and stuff like that. He just looks at me, he goes, man, have you ever thought of doing podcasting? And I was like, I had remembered back when I was on my back and I couldn't walk. And one of the things, everybody kept telling me, you need to write a book, you need to tell your story, blah, 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 blah. But at that time, I was still grieving and going through all of my pain and suffering and trying to just make sense of it all. And what ended up happening, and the Lord had put on my heart. It's like, man, you should do podcasting. So it was on my heart. But I was like, no, I don't have a story. Like, no, who wants to listen to me? You know what I mean? I'm a failure. I'm this and that. I was, you know, the
Yeah.
part that you go through in life. I remember that. And this time I didn't have that feeling at all. I was just kind of like, well, I've done all this other stuff. You know, the least we can do is just pray about it. And that's what we did. And so Dennis can talk about from that point moving forward, kind of like how we met and how all that stuff happened. You know,
Well,
we had been friends
let's
before
go on
this.
ahead and bring on your husband and wife team as well, and that way
Oh yeah,
we
Aaron
can all
and
sit on
Colton.
here. But you know, the funny thing about Dennis is that Dennis was our first guest on Footprints Forward, as I mentioned earlier. Dennis was our first guest on there, and as soon as that show was over, we invited him to become part of the panelists, and he goes, "I've got someone for you to meet." All right, perfect, great. You're already bringing someone to the show. 2 weeks later, we had another member of the panelists because that was you, and he was just like, you know, you took the opportunity that we gave you and you ran with it. So you know, I love the way that you are so humble on things. You're kind of like another one of our guests, Mr. Z. You know, you're so humble and understated towards yourself. But man, look, you work your butt off to do what you do too. So you know, all credit aside for everyone else, don't give it all away, brother, man, because you bust your ass every day. So
It all belongs.
let's
belongs
bring
to
on
God,
your
man.
husband and let's
Yeah.
bring on your husband and wife team as well.
So this is Aaron and Colton, and I actually the way I met them was through her father. I met him on a disc golf course where two racist people tried to kill me in the woods. Yes, this happened. and you know, so I'll just tell the story as quick as I possibly can. So I'm coming from a thing where I'm telling guys my testimony at this place called Rick's Cigar Lounge here. And my buddy Matt, he's like, hey man, you know, he's like, why don't you come play disc golf with me and this guy Rick? You know, I've never met Rick before. And so like, I don't really feel it going out. He's like, come on, man, I'll feed you, man. I'm like, all right, sold, I'll go. And so we go, and we're playing disc golf, and we're about 9 holes in, and these two guys come up, and I hear them cussing, and they're like, F you, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's not like so for the 2 years I've lived here, I've maybe seen 3 black people on the greenway, and I've never seen another black person playing disc golf out here ever. So I assumed that there's just going to be 2 rednecks fighting in the wood, and I was just like, you know, where's the popcorn kind of thing, you know? It's like, this is getting ready to be good. And so I turn around, and lo and behold, this dude's looking dead at me, and he's like, F you, man. And I'm just like, you know, he's a little bit of ways away, and he's like, F niggers and F all black people and all this other kind of stuff. And I look at my buddy Matt, you know, and I'm just like, is he talking to me? And he's like, well, I'm not a nigger, you know what I mean? So I was just like, you know, that's pretty daggone racist, bro. But I was like, what? Yeah, I'll take it. And so this guy's coming up to me, and he's walking my direction, and I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, you know, that heat's coming up. I'm like, all right, they're trying to really cause me harm. And you know, I was in the military, and I was an MMA fighter. And so where he was going is like where I lived, and where I lived for a long time, you know, in my younger years. And so I see him walking up, and I'm just like, my mind had already been made up that I was going home that day. I was like, you're not about to be the first person in White House News, first black guy that they found beat to death in the middle of the woods. So like, my mindset was to kill or be killed. That was just it. The guy comes walking up. He's still calling me names, and he's F you this, F you that. And at that moment, the Holy Spirit was just like, because God was dealing with my life at the time about my anger. And it was one of those things where it's like, if you really want to share my word, you have to be a man of peace. You can't be a man of anger. And my buddy Matt had just got on to me about this past Thursday, which made me angry. Actually, he's like, God's telling you need to get rid of your anger, and you need to really give that to him. And I was just like, I was minding my own business. So I was just like, I kind of got angry because he was like calling me out of my anger. I was like, I was fine until you said something, man. But then it prepared me for this moment. And so these guys are talking this stuff, and I'm looking at this guy and the Holy Spirit. The guy was just like, he's like, man, who are you gonna be? Are you mine? And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm yours. And so I did the Christian thing, and I was like, man, God loves you, trying to out Christian him, right? You know, and be like super godly or whatnot. And God hit me, humbled me in that moment. He was like, so you're just gonna use my name and act like you're doing something on my behalf, and you don't even really actually mean it. And I was kind of humbled, and God was breaking my heart down. And then I was like, man, you know, man, Jesus loves you, man. And he was like, so you still, that's how you're gonna be. You're gonna cop out on me again and use me and my name to actually be who, and not be who you're supposed to be. And he's like, are you mine? And in my soul, I'm just like, all right, yes, Lord, I'm yours. And at that very moment, I could see this guy the way God saw him and just how broken he was. And it was just, I just saw him so differently. In that moment, I actually loved him. And I looked at him, and I was just really calm. And it was just something I didn't have at the moment because I honestly wanted to kill him. To be honest, I had this, if he had stepped any further in what he was, I was just gonna kill him right there, then and there. And I was just like, I looked at him and I was like, hey man, I said, look, brother, I love you, man. I said, I don't care what you say. I said, I love you. And he looked at me and he's like, well, F you, man, and like confused. And him and his buddy, they walk off into the woods in the opposite direction. And I go back and I'm adrenaline dumping, so I'm shaking and stuff like that because I'm thinking I'm gonna have to like fight for my life, you know, and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I need to just pray because I don't know what else to do right now. And I'm praying and I'm just like, you know, self-pity, like, God, why would you let this happen to me? And I was just like, why not you? You know, that why wouldn't I? Why? What do you think is happening? Won't you pray for them and pray for their souls that they get to know me? And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, okay, fine, I'll pray for them. I'm like, pray, Lord, save the roaches, save the rats in their houses, save their kids, save the dog, you know. And I'm just like, you know, and while I'm praying all that, I was humbled again, and I was just like, Lord, really, just bring them to a saving knowledge of you and who you are. And and so we do about 2 more holes, and we're getting ready to go to the next hole. And these 2 jokers pop out, and they ain't but like less than 10 feet, 15 feet away from me. And I'm like, you know, I'm looking at the way this guy's walking, and I can tell he's not a warrior. He's never fought a day in his life. Like he's an angry fighter. He's one of the people that get real mad and angry, but don't actually understand combat and stuff like that. And so I'm already sizing him up. I already know that he's not on the same level and all that kind of stuff. And the Holy Spirit's like, this is, you just prayed for them, man. Like, what are you thinking? And so, and I was just like, all right, Lord. And I was just like, hey, I was like, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man can come into the Father but by me. And I was like, come here. I was like, come here. And they were just they jumped and they started walking over to me. And my buddy Matt was just like, no, just chill. And I was like, Matt, be quiet. Man, I'm just pray right now. And I ended up talking to this guy, and this guy's like, the one guy's like, man, I would never do that. I would never talk to you like that. And Rick and Rick, her father, and Matt standing there, and I look at this guy and he's looking down. He won't look at me, and I look at him. And I was like, man, what the heck, dude? He looks up, he's got tears in his eyes, and he's just like, man, he's like, man, the devil's had a control over my life for the last 5 years, and I saw you up on that hill, and you just had this light on you, and I got angry, and I just started saying all these things, man. And I said, I don't know why I said all those things, man. He said, but then you looked me dead in my eyes, and you told me that you loved me, man. He said, I felt so ashamed after that, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I was walking back with my friend, and he's like, and I was telling him, I was like, that man actually told me he loved me after I did all that to him. And I didn't know, he's like, And so right then and there, I was able to talk to him about the gospel message. And him and his buddy came to Christ right there in the middle of the woods. Then actually the next day they came and sat in church with me the next day. And that's how I met her father. And so me and him have been like that. We bonded like instantly over that. And then so a couple of months later, after I talked to Dennis, me and him just prayed, and I was just like, this was like my second week during the like getting into podcasting. I knew nothing about podcasting. I've never even listened to a podcast before, to be actually honest about it. I might have heard like 30 minutes of one or something like that, but I don't know anything about them. And her dad, I talked to Rick, and I'm just like, hey man, I was like, I think God's calling me into podcasting. And he's like, oh man, you don't understand the journey that my daughter's been on. You need to call her and just see what's going on with her. And then he told me the story about, and they'll tell more of their story, but he told me the story about how they came into their callings and what's going on with them and how God's changed their lives. And I was like, so I didn't get a chance to call her right away. It took about like maybe another month actually to call her. And then when I finally did, it was just the when I heard just how you said like you heard me talk and then like you knew that I you wanted me to be a part of this. It was the same thing with her. And then I met her husband Colton on a one-on-one because he's helping me build my websites. And he's absolutely amazing with websites, by the way, and stuff like that. And he'll talk more about what he does in his story. And and then I got to hear his testimony, and I just knew that how I just understood how intentional God was to put Rick in my life at that moment to bring his because he knew I was going to be doing this, and then he brought his daughter, and then Colton, and then like Dennis at that one place, and then my buddy E, you know what I mean, and then all the other people. Like I just seen how God was just building this whole thing up so we can be able to reach many people with several different messages and the things that we're doing. And so I met Erin, and she can talk a little bit about how we met, and so can Colton. But like they're all integral in this story, So just it's mind blowing actually how we're all sitting in the same room doing this right now. It's just I'm so proud and I'm so happy, and I see more of just the goodness of God, His grace to take a man from a tree to depression to this to working for something for free for a whole year, and then pulling them out of that, and then just be on a whim being like, God, are you calling me to podcast? And then the journey from that to just now we're sitting here only 3 months later with a whole team that's we're getting ready to launch things into the future. So
well,
that's it.
I've got one question that's vitally important to me. How many discs did you lose in that golf game?
I didn't lose any. I don't lose any, man. I'm good with keeping mine, man. I'm not so bad, man. I'm hoping one day to be the Michael Jordan of disc golf, man.
Yeah, I'd like
be the only black guy out there showing y'all up, man. That's
oh
that's
man, I think I'm worse at disc golf than I am at regular golf when it comes to losing my equipment. I really do. So, but we're also being joined now by E, your brother E, and but I know that Dennis, your time is really limited, so I'm going to bring you on real quick because Dennis, your story about yourself and Patrick. But first thing I would like to do is I'd like to show everybody this little thing here that we've got for you, because Dennis is part of the Community Pay It Forward program, and with his foundation, which is the Price of Freedom Foundation, and if you scan this QR code, you can support everything that Dennis is doing with writing books and presenting books to families who have lost heroes. people who have are no longer with us, telling their stories, telling why they lived, why they died. And Dennis, why don't you go on ahead and introduce yourself, and
Sure.
please make sure that you scan this code, and this code will give you an option to add it to your homepage on your cell phone. Then every time you open it, you can take and shop with any of our giving partners. You shop with any of our giving partners, and a portion of that can go to Dennis.
I appreciate that. Well, yeah, my name is Dennis Schroeder, and I am a retired U.S. Army officer. And I started about 4.5 years ago. It's dedicated to, as you said, telling the complete life stories of those who died while in military service to our nation. So I don't want to take up a whole lot of time about that. We are dedicated to helping the families of the fallen and their, the friends and of the fallen as well, to collect that story, preserve it, and then to tell it to as wide of an audience as possible. So there's lots more we could go into, but I'll suffice it to say that. And I thank you for what you're doing, Zach, and the support you all are giving us in that regard. What I really want to talk about is my friend Patric. And Patric, I got to meet Patric about a year ago. I'm calling in from the wet, cold, and rainy Western Washington, as you can see.
Yeah, you look miserable right now.
Yes. So we're overlooking the Puget Sound in the lovely city of Tacoma from my father's house, and just enjoying this. I'll probably get blasted out of here by the sun as it starts to go down before I actually have to depart. I have a family that I have not seen in 2 years that I'm out here visiting this past couple of weeks and through this week. But a year ago in July, I was hanging out at the Cigar Lounge in White House, Tennessee, with a bunch of guys that I've known for a while there. We have a Christian men's group, and it was a Tuesday night because it was dark. I remember that. We meet on Saturday mornings as well. And Patric and Eric Grenier, who is the pastor at the church that Patric goes to as well, had come in and sat with us. We chatted. We did do our normal fellowship that we do there, and then we went outside and sat on the porch, so it wasn't as smoky for the non-smokers. I know it just about killed Patric to be in there, but we just started talking, and I was drawn to him first of all because he's a veteran, and I'm a veteran. And I always like to introduce myself to any veterans that come in the shop there. And the conversation that evening was just, we didn't get deep into things, but I just saw a very genuine heart and soul in him. And we could have probably stayed and talked all night long, but that's, you don't do that on the first meeting. So we left it saying, hey, let's get together again and let's continue this conversation. And pretty much that's what we have done on a every week or every other week kind of basis, and really developed a true friendship there. And really what every time that I have had the opportunity to talk with Patric one-on-one, I just get so blessed by what comes from him. And before I even made the comment to Patric about doing podcasting or the like, it was just in my heart saying, I really think he should be in ministry because the message that he brings forth is a blessing to me. And there's a lot more people that could be blessed by him, by hearing what is on his heart, what the Holy Spirit, inspires him to say and do. And what he just gave an example about is just another amazing thing, an amazing way that he has been able to encounter situations and turn things around that otherwise could have gone a very, very different and bad direction. And so I knew that he had been involved with this other project, and I knew that he'd been putting his heart and soul into it, and he hadn't been getting paid. And when I heard that day that they had kind of decided to part ways, and my heart was just broken. And it's like, this just isn't right. There's got to be something else that can be done. So that was when I asked Patric. I said, "Hey man, have you ever thought about doing something so that you can this message, this kind of stuff that we're talking about can be shared with others?" And I said, "Well, maybe a podcast, some kind of broadcast, etc." And it's like that's when he just stopped. He said, "Stop." And he said, "You don't know what you just said." I said, "What did I just say?" So then he told me about the how God had been putting this on his heart for over a year. And so it's like, I've been a guest on podcasts for years now, trying to promote my nonprofit. I have not been a host for a podcast or anything like that. So I don't have that kind of experience to bring to this, but I know the benefit of being able to be a guest on different podcasts to help the podcaster, the hosts, to get a good guest that has a great message that fits with with what they're doing. And so when Zach and Stephanie, when I forget exactly how it was that we connected again about Footsteps Forward, but when I knew what you were doing, and when I was a guest there, it's like I knew Patric was the very first one that came to mind, but I have had about 3 or 4 other people that I've introduced to you all, because that's what I do. Is I like to connect people. I like to connect people that that can complement each other, that can benefit from the introduction, that don't know each other. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I've been along for the ride, and I've told Patric I will do everything that I possibly can to support this and to help this succeed going forward. And prayer certainly, financially when I can, and lots of introductions.
Well, it was actually kind of funny, Dennis, just to fill in your memory. Z introduced us first, but we never got together until after Stephanie introduced us. So it was kind of a roundabout thing. And then Stephanie brought you to my attention when we had your program here on the wine, on the Community Pay It Forward One Hope Wine event. Right. That's where we met initially, and then we talked about Footprints Forward from there, due to your experiences. So here comes the shock jock question for you, okay? And I'm really going to put your feet to the fire, so get ready.
All right.
I've always wanted to do this, so now I get to do this. I'm joking. It's not that bad. What it is I want to know, what is one thing that you have suggested to Patric that you have seen him grow because he listened to you? What is the thing that you have done that you have noticed has helped Patric the most?
The most? Wow. Well, I'd say this introduction, because I guess number one was actually putting that affirmation in front of him to actually start doing podcasting for himself and for the ministry that I believe is within him, because he started doing that like that weekend. God was just putting people in front of him, and like the next time we got together, he said, "Man, you just wouldn't believe all these people I've seen. God did this, bring these people into his life." But in terms of just kind of expanding that, I'd say getting on this program probably, because y'all are providing an audience that that currently we don't have. You know, there's people watching this that or will watch it that you know, we currently don't have the platform to reach. So I think that this would probably be the thing that I would say is the most significant. I don't know if he would agree or not. But
Well, that's actually where we're going next. Is I'm going to ask him, Patric, what is Dennis brought to you that you feel is the most beneficial in your life?
I would say belief in me. That moment, because when we were talking at that moment, I saw that he actually, man, out of all the things right now, I gotta listen here this whole time. There's a bee or wasp or something like just trying to attack me. Crazy. Anyway.
We won't eat much.
I'm like, all right, get away from me, man. All right, so I would say that was the catalyst right there. There were so many people that have belief in me and said I could do whatever, but at that moment, when I saw in his eyes, he was like, "Man, you could really do this," like, you know. And I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, "Man, I talk to people all the time. Like, maybe I could do that," you know. And it was a thing that it was the belief that was already that God was putting in me to have for him and for myself. And then when he said something, it kind of like ignited it. And then I think also just I think his selflessness in helping me.
Okay.
That would be the things.
Well, you know, I do know that, you know, you two have a very, very unique and just great friendship. Stephanie, I want to bring you on real quick, and I know that you and I, we obviously have a great relationship with these two gentlemen. What is the one thing that you have seen with these two that just really you can tell it clicks?
The word that came to mind was bromance. Like, they're both great. They're both great, and listening to them both, they both have a lot of passion with what they're doing. There hasn't been one conversation or one interview with either of them that has not been meaningful.
That's actually very true. You know, I've
never been in a bromance before. I was like, what does that even mean?
No, you guys have like this energy, like this friendship. Kind of reminds me of Tyreek and that friendship.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah,
and in
really cool.
In a different way though, but similar too, where you can tell they just vibe really good together and are really productive in a positive way together. So
right, where uncomfortable is uncomfortable, but it's not unreachable. They're not able to talk about it. So, but
that's really cool. I like that.
You know, I mean,
it's a positive thing, Patrick. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's my first bromance, so hey, yeah, I'm down.
Well, before we let Dennis go, Stephanie, do you have anything that you wanted to hear from Dennis before he has to run off? And
just thank you, Dennis, for the introduction to Patrick, because look at where the last few weeks have really brought all of us, and I'm just excited to continue to help with both of your organizations going forward.
Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you all. And yeah, I'm about to be roasted out here. The sun is up just about to my waist now, and it's going to just cook me out of here. And my dinner appointment here will be glad to see me a little bit early. So.
Well, Dennis, I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm going to let Patrick talk to you on the way out. But I do want to also give you credit. You are the one who sent me the introduction for our guest on Monday, Courtney, and I am really looking forward to this one. I really am. So, but Patrick, I'm gonna let you send Dennis out with the last words.
Dennis, man, I just, I would really like to thank you so much, man, for just your passion for what you do, man, and just like I just, I tell you, man, I see your strength, man. A lot of people might not see it, man, but I see you, brother. You know what I mean? And I thank you so much, man, for just who you are. And that's it. I
Thank
don't
you.
got a whole lot to say, man. I don't want you trying to kiss me
Appreciate
after
it.
this, man.
Appreciate
So.
it. All right, man. God
All
bless
right.
you
Well,
all.
Dennis,
We'll talk another time.
Hey, man.
sounds great. Well, thank you very much, Dennis. We'll see you on Monday.
All right.
So next up, I think we're going to go on ahead and my question for you, Aaron, is this your dad? Is that who he is? The explanation of what Patrick gave us, is that who your dad has always been? Oh, you're on mute.
The age old, you're on mute. Okay, thank you so much. Yes. So what's really interesting about that story is that my dad doesn't even live in the state of Tennessee. He actually lives in Iowa, and he didn't even start playing disc golf until like 2 months before that, when we went out and he came to visit and we taught him kind of how to play disc golf. He loves to golf, and so it was just really amazing to see this connection that's flourishing because my dad came out and he was watching the house for us. I was leading a retreat. My husband was with me in Kenya, and I get this picture on my phone, and my dad's like, "Hey, I'm out having Mexican food with people," and I'm like, "Okay." Like, he's like being a social butterfly, like meeting all. I'm like, "Who are you?" Like, he's very sociable, but he's like going to football games here. He's pretty much like moving into Tennessee, I feel like. And at that time, I didn't know what it meant that he's like, "Oh yeah, I just went out to dinner with these people I met," which Patrick was one of them. And it was after, I think, their disc golfing game.
Yeah.
So, so I hear this story, and my dad's heart is like just completely changed from that experience. I mean, he had an incredible relationship with God, I feel like, that just took a whole nother turn in his life from that specific encounter of just seeing the power of God working in people's lives. And so, he went back home, and he's kind of like had this fire that's kind of been lit where he's living. And so later on, he was saying, "Hey, you should reach out to Patrick." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." I was like, "I don't know who Patrick is, and I'm very busy."
Yeah.
You know how sometimes we're like called to something and it's like the last thing that we put on the list, but it's like the most important thing that needs to be happening. So after he's told me like the third time, and I was like, okay. And I think that's about the same time Patrick and me's brain kind of like connected from, both places we're at. And we're like, okay, let's get together. And it was really awesome to just hear, like you all have said, and Patrick, you're just so authentic, and your story is so powerful, and it's so palpable of what God is doing in your life, and not only in your life, but that you are stepping out with such courage and boldness to reach the people that are around you within your community. And it really, I don't know, it was just like this conversation that I was like, wow, God is doing something here. And I still remember when we were on that call, and there was this moment where I was like, well, I bought a podcasting mic and I don't know what to do with it. Because I had the previous year decided to really reconsider the path of my life, which I can get into in a little bit, or you guys can let me know later if you want to hear a little bit my story. But I was leaving my career because I'd had a born again experience, didn't know what I was going to be doing next, and I felt impressed by a podcasting mic. And it's not a small investment to buy a podcasting mic, but I just felt like I need to do this. And And there it was, Patric and me connect over a phone call, and it turns out that God had a purpose all along, and it was like there was this faith to take an action without even knowing or having a clue of what it means. And it makes me remember, or not remember, but think of Moses, and they're going all the way to the Red Sea, and that takes a lot of faith because there is nowhere to go from there. And God parted the waters, and they had their ability to find freedom. And so that's what I want to bring to people's lives, is freedom from the darkness, from the entrapment of, specifically for me, it's the new age, and helping people to break free of that kind of confusion and misleading path that people can end up on, like I was on, and to be able to see that they can find a saving relationship with Jesus that's not based on works, and it's based on a relationship that's a free gift, and to have that kind of peace in their life.
Well, and you're you are teamed up in life and in this journey with Colton. What are you guys looking to help Patric do? And what's the next step? How are we going to be able to talk to people and get you guys to the next step, Colton?
Yeah, so it's funny because kind of like what Erin was just talking about with kind of how she met Patric was after because we were kind of in a group text with me, Rick, and Erin, and he was telling us about the experience with him and Patric, and Rick ended up texting me separately later saying, hey, you should really connect with Patric. And this was actually after I got born again. And Rick was actually discipling me, and that's kind of when he told me about Patric and kind of a little bit about his testimony. And kind of like Erin, it's like, man, I'm really busy right now, so I don't know about right now, but maybe. So but just the opportunity just came up over and over again. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's meet Patric, right? So whenever Erin and Patric ended up connecting, talking about the podcast, because I found my company, Done For You Technology, back at the end of 2020. That actually started because I was helping my wife with her business that she was starting up around April 2020. So, I create websites and like automation systems and stuff for entrepreneurs, small business owners. So, Erin told Patric that I help people do websites and that kind of thing. And Patric's like, yep, I definitely could use a website. So, and it's really cool how that kind of all just worked out to connect and learn about Patric and his testimony. And I mean, just his story, man, his story is just incredible. Just the way that God's been working through his life these past couple of years. And it's undeniable with what God is showing Patric to do next with this podcast. It's undeniable. I mean, it was just literally, he was telling me thing after thing after thing. It's like, okay, talk to this person, this thing happened. Literally the next day, this other thing happened. I'm just like, yeah, there's no denying that, Patric. It's, it's happening. So, and that was funny because out of the 2+ years I've been doing this as a business, helping people with websites and stuff, that was actually the first time, and it kind of happened by accident, I would say, that I did a consultation with him in person, since I'm like, hey, I live over here just like 40 minutes away, so I'll just come meet you for coffee, I guess, right? And so that was really cool because up until that point, all my work's been virtual, all over the world, really. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of along for the ride too. Seems like me and Erin, my wife and I, just kind of do everything together, the power couple kind of idea. So I'm just looking forward to supporting Patric with his ministry and what he's doing with this podcast, with the mission of getting the gospel spread, really.
So what are you two, let me ask you this. What are you two seeing, same thing I asked Dennis before. What are some of the things that you guys see Patric is instituting in his day-to-day activities, that you guys are sitting there going, wow, he's taken what we suggested and running with it.
Yeah, Colton, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think just Patric, like, you know, just you leaning in, like, despite what might be happening in your life and all the different circumstances and stuff, and despite that, deciding to lean in and like be committed to the process anyway. You know, like especially with the website and realizing that you have that there's a need for that. That's super important. Just for that, for the presence, right? And to use as a means for the ministry of people to be able to tithe into it and just in general to watch it and to receive the message. So I would say that's the big thing, is just leaning in.
Yeah, I would say just what I've seen is Patric's obedience to God, and every single step of the way, I hear breakthroughs in Patric's personal relationship with God, because it's like a request of like, hey, I want your whole heart. Like, I want it all. And every time that there is a purification process, or man, I don't really feel like going out to like do something like you talked about with the disc golf, even he's being obedient to every single step along the way. And that just gives me such confidence to be a part of something where the person who is holding the vision and is partnering with, you know, God, with whatever is being called to be brought out of this, because honestly, we're all leading on faith, and just knowing that we're all being called to be a part of this, and to see that Patric is continuing to really cherish that time, because at the end of the day, Patric could do anything, but unless he has that relationship in the background that is solidified and has that deep connection with you know, his walk with God, you know, that's what it's all about. And so he's been really inspiring to me, and Colton's even waking up early now, like, I'm gonna you know, essentially I'm gonna be like Patric and like take that time to start his day off. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about the great things that I admire about Patric, and just how excited I am to be a part of something that has such an incredible potential to impact so many people's lives.
Well, Patric, let me ask you. You've heard these two talk. Where are they at, and what are the important things they're doing for you?
Uh, I would say as a couple, um, just their ministering ability, they minister to me, in more ways than not, and they actually hold me like everybody actually in this group hold me accountable. But like for them specifically, I would say for Colton, I really Colton is like my nerd side, and so like the as and the things that like when we had our meeting, he started talking about his website. Like I really wanted to learn how to build websites from like the way his mind worked, and like I understood it, you know. And so like that is something that's a side of me that like, you know how you just have people that like you have these different sides to yourself, and you have those other people that kind of unlock it, and you can actually have fun being yourself in that little space where you can't normally be that way with other people. And so like just I like I really just like the way he really thinks things through, and he's analytical, but then at the same time, like I see this change happening in him that is like, oh, how do I want to explain it? I just see this thing happening in him, like where he doesn't even understand like how far he's about being able to be a part of that, right? Because he sees it, like he knows it's there in the back of his head, but he doesn't see it the way I see it. Like I see it, I'm just like, oh my God, like what's getting ready to happen with this dude? Like the world, just watch out, you know. That's what, and I'm just so happy to be a part of that journey. Um, for Aaron, um, there's a conversational side that happens in my brain where I'm trying to just verbally process things out, and um, um, I think we're on the same wavelength as far as that goes when it comes to like I'm a verbal processor, and I have to say things to actually make it work. And then because I can see what I'm saying, and then like I think she understands that it gives me space to work those things out. And then like also like her intellect too is another thing that I really really admire, and both of their hearts for God. Like they they're they're stepping out with that reckless abandon, which is I want to be around people like that because it helps me still be reckless when it comes to who God is, because that's how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be like, you know, a lot of times when we think about our relationship with between us and God, like very it's very tame, and it's very subdued, and it's very, in this box. And God's like, I gave you the keys to be set free. That was the whole point. And when you start to think like this, and you're starting to surround yourself with people like that that see God that way, and then like I'm watching the same miracles happen in their life. Um, I'm watching the same miracles happen in their life, and hold on. Sorry, my girlfriend, she's trying to get on. She's saying she doesn't have StreamYard. Um,
All
I
she
don't think
has to do is just tag on to that link, and it should allow her to come on in. I'm not sure she even has to download it. I don't know for sure, but
okay, I'll check with her in just a minute. But anyway, that's really what it is right now. And so she's very brilliant with like business. And to be honest, I'm trying to be a very good student of the things that she's accomplished in her life to help me, you know, I have a very strong spirit of excellence. Like that is very important to me. Is if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for the glory of God, and it's going to be the best that I can possibly do. And all the people in this, they bring that to the table, and so right now I'm learning a lot about the process of like the background things of organization, and um, making sure everybody that even is a part of the show or that comes on steps up to that same level of excellence that we're going to have. It brings everybody up, and that's one of the things that she brings to the table. And I really really I don't know. I'm just enjoying it because I'm learning something new from both of them like all the time, like every day. Like I'm just like, did you think about this? And I'm like, absolutely not. I
you,
did not know that it even existed. And then
yeah,
I'm just like, well, how do we make it work? And it's just like, but it's so exciting because I'm becoming more because of them.
you know, it kind of brings back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago, Patrick, when we were talking to one of the young men that you're working with. And I made the statement to where having these two, who there's a generation gap between them and yourself. I mean, and having somebody of that younger age, which this is where I get to be that get off my lawn guy, because I'm so much older than the rest of you. But it's so nice having somebody who's a little bit younger, who's experienced in some of this stuff. Um, you know, and what is that? Has that helped you in any way? And Colton and Aaron, has his experience in years, I don't want to say he's older because he's not, his
I'm just 42,
experience
man.
in years.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I'm still young, bro.
Yeah. Oh,
Youngish.
I'm, I was born when dirt were still people. So, but is what have you learned from him in his experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really beautiful when a group of people can come together of all different ages, generations, and ethnicities and be able to work together. I think back to when I was a missionary in Kenya for a year, and we had people from the Philippines, from America, from Romania, from Kenya, and we were all sitting in this one room together having a potluck, and we all have the same mission, and we are serving people and helping students and doing God's work. And it's like, wow, I see that here too. It's like, wow, this is like a taste of the kingdom of God, like here on earth, of just us all being able to work together to do good and to make such a huge impact. And we all bring different gifts to the table. I think it just blows my mind sometimes. And at the same time, I kind of have this brain of ever since I was little. I remember in like first grade, I would go from like the girls' table to the guys' table to like the nerds' table, and I was just like, why is everyone sitting apart? Like, I don't really, I like really didn't understand the concept, and I was like, where do I fit in? So even as you mentioned the different ages, like I literally didn't even like think about that until you brought it up, which I think which I think is great. Like it's a good thing to. Because I'm not like, oh, this person's old or this person's young, or but I think but there is a beauty of acknowledging that, like the things that Patrick has navigated that maybe Colton and me have not navigated before, and bringing that wisdom to the table. And also Colton is like technology guru, so I'm sure he's bringing his stuff to the table too.
Yeah, you called him your IT guy, before the show even got started. So
yeah,
that dude's just, I don't know none of that. So
I was gonna say, I mean, I think it's really good, to have that kind of that diversity of age, the age range and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I don't even think it really comes down to the age when it comes to like how Patrick kind of works in our lives. I think it's just simply the glory of God and God working through him and him being obedient to that. Because, for example, I mean, literally, first of all, this is my very first stream I've ever been on podcast. So that's one example of just how he's kind of working in my life. But also, just literally a couple weeks ago, when he was helping us move into our new house, we went to a Mexican restaurant afterwards, and I got to experience him witnessing to somebody, the waitress that was serving us in the Mexican restaurant. And I think that's the first time I ever experienced anyone witness with me, like in that close of proximity. And it really, like, he gave me the courage for me to actually witness to her just for a brief moment. And that was literally the first time I've ever witnessed anyone too. So, praise God for that. And I think it's just really inspiring what Patrick's doing. It's just palpable, like Aaron said earlier, and just really, gives courage for me to do that as well.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. After that experience at the Mexican restaurant and Patrick praying with the waitress, and it was just this really incredible experience where you could see that she is just so parched and looking for that, that water, that spiritual, water, like I think of Jesus at the well. And, it gave me the courage. I was on a call for my job, and I was calling someone up, and I had their personal number on accident instead of their work number. And she's like, I think you meant to call where I used to work as a teacher. She's like, how'd you get this number? And we kind of went through this thing. She's like, I won't be going back. She's like, I'm on medical leave. And I'm like, all of a sudden I have this really sinking feeling that it's something very serious. But I kind of joked. I'm like, oh, hopefully it's just something like a little light surgery. And she's like, no. She's like, I have leukemia and I have cancer, and I'm not going back to work. And I immediately thought of Patrick witnessing literally a couple days before that and praying with someone in the middle of a Mexican restaurant. And I looked at my computer. I'm like, okay, it's not recording me, because sometimes at work it records or it doesn't. And I was like, good, like, which either way, I probably would have done it anyway. And I just asked her if I could pray with her. And it's not that I wouldn't have had the courage. I think otherwise, it's just like I had never seen anybody do that before in person in the way that Patrick did. And it brought that idea to my mind of like, if Patrick did that, you know, I can do that right now and be able to witness to this lady. And I took it as a moment where God just opened the door because he knew I was willing. And I called this lady that wasn't supposed to be called to have this conversation that wasn't supposed to happen, for God's glory. So, Patrick, you might not have known that kind of looped together with, you know, just your beautiful moment of witnessing the other day before that, but absolutely did.
Wow, Stephanie.
That's the love of my life right there. That's my yeah, man.
Well, Stephanie, I got to get your, I mean, you know, you and I, we deal with we deal with a lot of people, we deal with a lot of backgrounds, and this one is this is really cool because it's kind of like a diversity thing, you know, here that there's a little bit of everything on this screen right now, you know, and I mean, it's really kind of cool. And I think the best thing about it is, in which we're going to get to Aya here shortly, but I mean, this isn't something that's just a small circle. This is worldwide here that is coming around this man that we have begun to know and love.
It is, and this is incredible. This is like taking our show to a whole nother level tonight for sure. I feel like, I don't know, this is like alignment. Like Patrick opened these doors and all of you guys are like gravitating to him for different purposes, different ways, and you guys are complimenting each other. It's just so beautiful to even listen to you guys speak on your journey and your story and all of this. Like, I'm learning a lot. I feel like we've heard Patrick's story, but this is like the other side to it, kind of. So it's really nice to hear, you know, your perspectives also in this whole journey and how you guys all weave together. But it just goes to show all the impact that Patrick is making through his work. And, you know, and that's why we're here and sharing, because we want to be able to help and support him in all of these efforts. So with the podcast, with everything he's doing with these kids, like it's all just really great, meaningful work. And thank you all for being here tonight. Like, thank you for being here to share and to be able to support this mission, because every time I hear him speak, I get chills. Okay. So the fact that you guys are working alongside him to make all this magical stuff really happen, and such an impact for the youth too. There's just so many things. So thank you. I don't know what else to say, Zach. I'm enjoying listening here.
yeah, it is. It's you know, it really is a good time. Colton and Aaron, I hope that you guys stick around, and I invite you. If E or Aya has anything to say, or if you guys have a question, please pipe in. I want to make sure that, you know, because believe me when I say this, I can't think of all the questions. So there's times that I just sit here and go, well, I can make something up, and that's kind of how I host this. So if you guys have any questions, please make sure that you join us on this. And then here shortly, we're going to have Stephanie talking about our program and how we can support Patrick and what he's doing. Patrick, why don't you go on ahead and introduce us to E? He's been sitting here nice and quietly, and we'll hear from him, and then Aya can pipe on in as well from across the pond.
Well, Ephraim, this is my brother from another mother. Like literally, like so. This guy's my battery. So when like anybody that knows this guy is like you know when E steps in the room, because he's that dude that just lights it up and he brings just a whole nother energy to every situation. But so I met this guy actually in men's group, and the first time I came in the men's group, I'm not gonna lie, I was really raw. I came in and at the time I had went through a lot of racial stuff with my mother-in-law and just how things happened with my kids and stuff like that. Like there were some things that were on me, but there's a lot of things that were done that was just absolutely not right. And I didn't really want to be around white people, to be really honest about it. I just really didn't. So the first time I met them, I walked in the door because my nephew had invited me to come to men's group, and I walked in the door and it's just all these white people sitting there, these white guys sitting there. I was just like, I don't even want to be in here with y'all. Like I had no filter because I was still coming out of that place of PTSD. I had no filter whatsoever. And they were like, whoa, you know, just hang out and stuff like that. And he was like, well, I'm not white, I'm Puerto Rican, man, you know. So I was like, all right, acceptable, I'll stay, you know. So, but this brother right here, man, has just he's been consistent from day one, was consistent and just constantly just telling me who I was in Christ when I was through the coming out of the depression, but I was still going through the major part of it, and would call me and like we talk at least probably 2 to 3 times a week, and it's always just this. Come from those conversations where I'm encouraged, you know, and I'm lifted up, and or sometimes, you know, he's that person that is, hey man, bro, you're messing up. You know, you're not. This is not what God is leading you, man. Or sometimes there's been other times he was like, you need to quit your. I cannot say that. Quit your complaining. I was gonna say another word, but I was like, I don't think you can say that. So quit your complaining, but the guy version, you know, you know, and you know, get up and keep going, man. You know what I mean? Like, you are made for this and stuff like that. And so, like, a major part of finding my identity in Christ was this brother right here. And
Oh, we lost your microphone for some reason.
can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, you're back. You're back.
You're back.
Okay, so and then my other brothers, which they're hopefully one day I'll be able to do something. But it's Matt and Matt, me, Logan, and Eric. These are some other guys that during this time of my life literally built me up and like put me on their back, and which is like, no, you're going to get up, and were a part of my legs becoming strong again. And so this brother one day he was just like, "Hey Pat, this is way before any of this stuff happened. Before I even met you, we were talking one day. He's like, I'm supposed to do ministry with you, man." And I was just like, I remember sitting on my back porch, and I was like, "Well, who does that?" You know, like he's like, "Brother, whatever you do, man, I'm gonna do it with you. I'm gonna help you." And it's like that kind of just like, you know, if I love that brother already, but then when he did that, when he was like that, like it was a different type of. It's like there's these people in the Bible, Jonathan and David, and it's like when you have like that bosom brother, you know what I mean? So I have him and my best friend Sean, my bosom brothers. If you bring Gables or something, you know, just you just share your life and stuff like that with them. And is my mic going on and off with you guys?
It is a little bit, but we're still catching most of it. So
Yes.
Okay, because I can switch off and then.
oh no,
that might be a little bit.
you're doing fine, man. We're still catching most of it. So
Okay. And so so this brother right here, when I was just like, hey, I believe God's calling me to do the podcast and stuff like that, he was like, no questions asked. Like it was like it went like, usually you have to like, man, you want to do it with me? It's like I didn't even get the words out of my mouth. He was like, yeah, we're doing it, and of course in E fashion, he's like, so excited. So I was like more excited to keep going, and I was just like, it's so and this brother can talk a little bit more for himself, man, about where things at, but very, very integral into the man I became after the accident, after that time.
So then, I take it you're the one who got him on the path of talking to other people. He's giving you the credit for that. And just to let everybody know, he was so excited he beat me onto the podcast. He was waiting for me to get on. So I mean, that's how excited he was. I was like, I took and I clicked on, and I'm sitting here getting ready to do all this stuff, and I'm like sitting there and trying to print myself and look pretty and stuff, failing miserable at it.
And I caught you.
Yeah, there's people I don't know, and I'm like, what's going on? So, how you doing, E?
I'm good. Yeah, it's I got laced with hey, you got to get on here at this time, and I had to catch you. I wanted to be on there and just let everybody know I was driving home from work. So I was like, this is not gonna work. But you gave me some grace there after I got on and said, hey, you can come on later, just for safety issues, which was pretty good for me. So
yeah. So I do like the Puerto Rican part. I think that was pretty funny. I'm not white, I'm Puerto Rican.
That's right.
That's
I got some flavor for you.
So what was it that you said to Patric that you think really kind of started to turn his life around? What was it that you have said that you could tell a light went off in his head?
Well, for me, I mean, when I saw, like he said in the beginning, Patric was very raw when I met him. And at that time, my life was being turned around, and God was using me for certain purposes as well. And when I laid eyes on him, I was like, wow, he's rough, but I heard God say this man is going to do some incredible things. And of course, you don't say that the first time you meet somebody, of course. And then when I got to know Patric and get to hang out with him a little bit more and hear his story, in a sense, we come from the same backgrounds. Yeah, he was in Jacksonville. I was in New York City. So, Jacksonville has his good places and it has his ghettos like it does in New York. And, I connected with him immediately. And not only that, but the Spirit of God kept telling me that this man's going to be incredible. This man's going to be incredible. I need you to be by his side. You need to be by his side. And then not let up on him in a sense to let him know that, that God is for him and nothing can be against him. And I kept letting him know that you're going to do great things, man. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. What's in the past is left in the past. The devil likes to grab everybody in their past, but he doesn't know the future. Only God knows the future. And I kept telling him that, and but not only telling him that, walking with him, and that's where it comes down to. When you have brothers in Christ, you can't talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And that's one thing that God put in me in the past several years is that I used to be the talk the talk guy and not walk the walk guy, and now I've become the walk the walk guy, and it's made a tremendous difference. Not only in my brother Patric, but in myself, because there's certain things that I have to walk the walk as well. And I'm just grateful to be part of the journey that I am with Patric right now, because I've been in the room where Patric just broke down. I've been in the talks with him, those private talks, and hear his heart, and he's got a beautiful heart, and what God is doing in him, and it's not even done with him yet. It's going to be tremendous, and not only for himself, because he don't think of himself that way, but for everybody else that's a part of it. And I'm just being grateful and honored by God to be part of the journey. And I know God has some things for me as well, part of this journey as well, and I'm just excited about where we're going to go.
So with what Patric's doing with kids, did you see that when you first started talking to him, or do you think that was something that you had?
I saw that in him, and as we joined together, and I started pushing it, because we started helping out on a brother for the youth group, and he was like, no, I don't want to be part of that, because he had some sour stuff that happened back in the past. And I was like, well, I'm not going to push off on it, because I keep hearing the Spirit telling me, you need to be with kids. You need to be with kids. Sometimes when we're walking our paths, God puts us through some fires, and sometimes we get it wrong. We're human beings. We're going to get it wrong. Sometimes we have to get to our lowest point for something to click. And once it clicks and God gets a hold of it, all of a sudden he redoes the things that were in the past, and he starts doing this mechanism that he starts refining it, and start putting people around you that are going to actually help you, and starts opening your mind to another level that you never had before, not even in the past. And I kept pushing him. I'm like, dude, youth is your thing, man. Youth is your thing. Youth is your thing. No, youth is your thing. And sure enough, it finally clicked in him, and now you see the fruit of that starting to come to fruition, and it's just started. And wait till it explodes, because it's just going to be a beautiful thing to see.
It's funny that you say that, E, because he was talking 2 weeks ago when we first started to introduce him to people, how he drove off from that Sonic. He was like, no, I'm not dealing with these kids, and then he talks about, feeling the calling and going back there and talking to him. You were the one who first approached him. Was it something similar?
It was similar. It's just, there's something about Patrick that once you see it in his eyes, and all of a sudden you see the Holy Spirit, you see the Spirit just overwhelm him, and all of a sudden it just takes over. I can say this: there was a time of several. This was about 2 months ago. He had an intuition. A revival. We're going to do this in his subdivision around the pit, and he put it on hit White House and did all these things, and all these people started coming and all that stuff. And God was moving in him, and I said, "Yeah, I'm there, brother, man. I'm coming." So I came, and we were praising and worshiping, and there's people, and he was like, "Man," he said, there's some kids over there playing basketball. Let's go over there. So we go over there, and I'm like, "Oh, it's about to go down." So we going over there, and who stops people from playing in the middle of a game? That would be Patrick. So we get there, and next thing you know, they it's like, once Patrick, I don't want to say Patrick, it's just the obedience in Patrick, because the Spirit of God's behind him. And when he's obedient, the Spirit is going to go before him. And when it goes before him, it prepares the way for him. And so when he goes there, there's nothing that the enemy can do at that precise moment, because it catches him by surprise. And the enemy doesn't like that. And so what happens is, you have a group of five boys playing, and an adult. Come to find out, he's witnessing to them. I'm standing right next to him, and guess what happens? All six of them, because it was five and an adult, all six of them come to Christ. How's that happen? Well, because Patrick was obedient. And when you have obedience, it's better than sacrifice, as it said in God's word. And that's something that you can't take away from him at all. The obedience, and that's why we're so linked together, because we have the same persona, the same mindset, in that obedience comes before sacrifice. When you hear God say something, just do it. He's going to be behind it. Just like this podcast thing, I don't know nothing about podcasting, but I know I heard God that he had a thing for me to do in the near future, and how that was going to come about, don't know, because, our minds are so small compared to God's mind. And when he approached me about this podcast thing, it clicked in me, and I was like, wow. And then, God at that precise moment showed me, this is the opportunity that I was telling you about. So you're going to be with him to do this. And I'm like, I'm down. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, let me tell you the secret of podcasting. Okay. Just convince yourself that everybody wants to hear you talk. That's all you got to do.
Exactly.
I don't know anything about this stuff either. I just turn on a camera and go, I hope I don't make too much of a fool out of myself. So, but and just get good people around you. Stephanie, this is another story that, once again, Patrick told us last month about this event that he was holding at the White House. He told us about this. So these are just everything that we heard last month or 2 weeks ago. We're hearing again from other people. This is just you know,
it's like we're connecting the dots and
yeah,
getting the background, you know, of another perspective, you know, on everything. Man, this is a good show. I don't even, I just need the popcorn and to watch.
Yeah, but unfortunately here in a minute, you're going to have to do your parts.
Well, I don't want to cut anybody short on their end, but absolutely, I'm happy to share. But I think we have somebody else to hear from first.
Yeah, we've got one more person that I had the privilege of meeting this lady before, and but I'm not going to butcher anything, so I'm going to leave it up to the man to go on ahead and you get to introduce her because, yeah, she apparently means a little something to you.
Yeah. So last but definitely not least is Aya. So she was the one that she kept me alive. I would have made it to my 41st birthday. I would have made it to my 41st birthday without her. Just when we met, we actually like we argued so much, like so much, you know, and then but you know, another one that just got put into my life, right time, right place, and she didn't even understand like there's so many times that, you know, when she was just being consistent, being obedience to God is actually what led me here. There was a time when I was just going through a lot of depression. It was the year right after my suicide. It was like about I want to say about 3 or 4 months after. I was just at the point where I was going into the road constantly, and I was just like, I just can't keep taking this anymore. I was feeling the loss of everything on another level, and then just the pain and of the surgeries and whatnot. And I went to I was at a barbecue or something, and I was just talking about like how I was talking to my sister. I was just like, I don't think I can keep going like this. Like I don't have anybody. I don't have any friends. I don't have nobody to talk to, and it's just I'm in this room in depression and darkness all the time. I don't think I can make it. And she didn't understand, but I was really done. I was just tired. And my sister's like, you need to go on eHarmony and just make friends. She's like, I went through this thing in my life, and I just made friends on eHarmony. And I was like, that's the last thing I want to do is talk to another woman. I just got divorced. I just, you know, went through this crazy junk that I went through like that. I do not want. You know, I was getting ready to actually get divorced, and I was like, this is not another woman on this planet I ever want to talk to be honest. And she's like, you don't have to just say you need a friend. And I was just like, who goes on eHarmony to be like they want to be friends with somebody? You know what I mean? Like, who does that? And I was like, you know, I was desperate. So I was just like, I was desperate just to talk to anybody. And so I was like, all right, you know, fine, I get on there. So I get on the thing and I make like the worst profile a man can make. I'm like, I don't got no money, I don't got a car, you know, like there's nothing, you know, I'm just looking for something real to talk to somebody and whatnot. And so, of course, you know, you have those women that are trying to fix you and all the other kind of crap, you know, get on there. I'm just like, no. And it was just getting even more depressed about that. And then she got on one night and it was just something a little different about it. I just like, I want something real and whatnot. And she asked me about my story. I told her my story. And then the first thing she did for me was pray for me. And I wasn't expecting that. And I was like, well, you know, and I saw that she was in Singapore and I was like, well, perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have any emotional investment to be able to have. I can just talk to somebody, you know, and I don't have to worry about meeting them or anything. We ended up talking and she didn't notice at the time, but I was still very highly suicidal. And I would go into the road and she would text like, it was uncanny, man. Uncanny. Every single time that I would walk into the road in the middle of the night, and it was different times. I was there, like I would even try a different time to try to avoid her so I can do what I need to do and like continue ending myself. And she would text me like right in the right moment, your daddy God loves you, or send me some verse or some scripture. and I'd be like, dang it, I can't do it tonight, you know, like it was kind of crazy like that, and it brought me back into the house, and then like I would be reading those scriptures, and my mind would start to become more clear, you know, and um, actually that's all that she did actually led to me being able to say yes to when my nephew asked me to go to the men's group, which actually now I had men speaking into my life, and I had brothers now, which I've never really had brothers like that. And outside of my best friend Sean, a guy named Steven and Cash. Those are the other two that were another. And his name is Jamal Adams. So ended up talking, and then when I made it to my 41st birthday, I was like, "There's something here." 'Cause I really loved the way she loved God. You know, it was just different than I've ever seen any other person really love God. And she loved God the way I loved God, but I was just in pain from it all, and I just was trying to figure out how to love God again like that. And the wonder that she had, and just like when she'd just be like, "Daddy got this, and Daddy got that," and just like, you know, it was just strange to me, you know. And then like the one thing she was talking to me about constantly was about grace, and the way the background I grew up in was just always like, it's what you do, it's what you do, it's what you do, and but I've never heard grace so much, and and then I was just like, I think I might actually like really like this woman. And I told her like my birthday, I dedicated it to her. You know, I said I wouldn't be here unless you had been in my life every night, talking to me every night consistently. And you know, we would argue about the Bible, argue about what beliefs, and just like, you know, be pissed off at each other, man. February came around, and I was just like, I think my divorce went through, and I was just like, oh man, like I think I'm pretty sure like I'm actually falling for her. Like I really, she's somebody worth pursuing. But I just knew at that point in my life, like I wasn't ready, which I told her. I was like, you know, I literally wrote her this thing about, you know, like I see her value, and I'm gonna pursue her and all other kind of stuff. And I said, but I told her, I was like, I'm not ready. And she was like, well, I honor you and all that stuff and whatnot, but I'm not interested. And I was just like, yeah, you know, I was just like, I don't care. Like, you know, like I, I I kept telling her that, you know, I didn't care about what she thought about not wanting to actually be with me and whatnot. And so I was like, you know, because in my mind, I had prayed and I'd asked God to actually, because I was starting to have really strong feelings for her, and she didn't know that I had been asking God to remove her out of my life if she wasn't supposed to be in it. But He kept putting her back in it, and so there's a point where I was just like, okay, Lord, I'm supposed to pursue her, and but I need to change myself, like not myself, but change my heart before God so I can be what God wanted me to be towards her. And so there's a point where she was just whatnot, and I was just like, I was kind of devastated by it, but at the same time, I was just like, no, we're not. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I'm gonna win you over. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have a plan B. You know what I mean? So I was like, you're mine. I'm gonna win your heart. You know what I mean? And so I just, because just be a friend, because in my life previously, I had always did the physical thing first and then tried to be friends. But for the first time, I was being friends with the woman first, and then letting that affect how I saw her. And it was no physical stuff to interfere. So it was just I got to know her mind and her soul and her spirit first, and then that's pretty much. She's been with me and been a part of my life. You know, gonna marry her. She knows that. You know, I'm trying to get up the money and the funds to actually get to Singapore to go tell her dad to board. So, but that's the case.
Well, I a surprise.
She ain't surprised. I done told her. She knows.
So I'm gonna give you a chance to break his heart. Did Did he win you over?
Well, yes.
Okay, that's good.
From the
That's
soles
good.
of my feet to the tips of my hair, totally won over.
Well, that's good. Did you know that you were a lifesaver?
No, not
did-
at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
You didn't know about the stories that when he was in dangerous points that you were contacting him just at the right time?
He only told me like right after we were in a relationship already. Yeah, not at all. So like when we first spoke, that was in July 2021. Um I made things clear with him because I did not want to lead anyone on. And just about that time, I finished this seminar on boundaries. And it says that all our relationships, whether parent to child, co-workers, all relationships, husbands and wives, there should be boundaries. And boundaries has 3 R's. So I applied it on him. So it's like, if you are the the speaker gave herself as an example. So she said, so me, I am married to my husband. So the 3 R's are role, responsibility, and relationship. My relationship to my husband is I'm his wife. My role to him is like I'm the spouse, and my the last R was like I need to be faithful to him. So to me, to make sure that there are no lines are crossed, I told you, hey Pat, my role to you is or like my relationship to you is I'm your friend. My my role to you is I'm your friend, role, responsibility, and relationship. So my role to you is I'm your friend. I am a Jesus pointer. That's it. I'm your supporter and I'm a Jesus pointer. If at any point in time, if you want anything that is not in there, please don't go to me. So that was how black and white I was in our relationship, because I did not want him to develop feelings later on. I just wanted to encourage him in Christ and to remind him how much his daddy God loves him. That was for me, that was just my purpose in his life. And like I will just send a message in a day, then the next day happens, I will just do that. That was just what I did. Until it came to January 2022, he started telling me about his feelings and all. Like, okay, I tell him, oh, you know what? I appreciate that, but that's not for me. So he again told me about it in like I think he told me about it 4 times, and I told him no. Do you want us to still continue speaking? And then he said yes. Okay, then we still continue speaking. Then on in I think about June last year, he said that hopefully I get the chance to show you how I feel. So like I was thinking, you know what? This guy had been very consistent, very, very consistent. And isn't consistency what I am looking for in a life partner? Consistent and kind. Consistent and kind and loves Jesus. Just these 3. This is what I saw in him at that point, June 2022. So I told myself, I'm not dating anyone. Okay, I'll give him a chance. I'll get to know him. So yeah, we started getting to know each other. And the more I started getting to know him, I told myself, why didn't I give him the chance much sooner? So I really love, because before that, I never asked him about his life, because I did not want, intimacy is a product of vulnerability and time.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not want to create intimacy between us. So I was never vulnerable with him. I did not want him to be vulnerable with me. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm just an encourager. But after we decided to date, so I created that vulnerability. Like we started being vulnerable again, and then we started to talk more about our lives. And like I learned about his life, he learned about my life. And I really love the heart that I'm trying to get to know. Like, why did I get to know this guy sooner? And And but there it was still, because we're far away from each other and coming from an Asian background, which is a bit conservative, like I'm not supposed to say yes to someone who I'm just meeting virtually. But sometime there were I'm not sure when or like how soon it was, but like he asked me, hey, how do you want me to call you? Told him, you call me by my name, call me Aya. Then he said, no, like, do I call you honey, baby? So, hey, Pat, we are still dating. And dating is just getting to know. Maybe when we become boyfriend and girlfriend, we think about how to call each other. But at this time, we're just, getting to know it. So I guess in his mind, dating means a boyfriend and a girlfriend. But in my mind, dating is just getting to know. We have not progressed yet. So, the kind of cultural difference is happening in our relationship. So, and then he was a bit down and all that. At that time said, Pat, you know what? The number one requirement of a girlfriend is she should love you. At that point, I don't. I told her, I don't love you yet. So do you want us to end here, or do you want us to continue getting to know each other? Then he said, okay, we continue. So he is really, really very consistent and perseverant and yeah. So until like, you know what? I love this guy. I know, like, based on what I know, I should be meeting him and all these, but I've known his heart. He loves Jesus. Yeah. So now we're together for a year now. Yeah, and it has been a really good ride because I'm sitting with him in the passenger seat, and everything that happens in his life, I've seen how the Lord dealt with his heart from the time when he was bitter from the things that happened in his life to a point where he started taking responsibility. And then when he said, you know what, Lord, this is the part that I did in the situation and I need your grace to turn things around, I saw the acceleration from there of how the Lord really orchestrated things, put him at the right place at the right time, put people around him that just pour into his life. And I really see the hand of God in the things that he does. I'm very privileged to be there at the passenger seat.
So you can see how, because of the way that your guys' relationship began, you can see how strong he feels about all of his nonprofit work and everything that he's going to be doing. And his, I guess the best word for it is tenacity and drive. So you can see success coming, can you?
Well, the thing for me is I always go back to the word, and in Joshua 1:8, right? A person who meditates on the word of the Lord and is just focused on the Lord gives him good success. So if I'm talking about it in the lens of the world, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, Like, how can someone who doesn't know anything about all these, just start things? If I am looking at it in the eyes of the world, it doesn't make sense. And I would probably be someone who, as a woman, and the number one need of a woman is security. If I am just operating in the mindset of the world, I'm not here anymore. I'm not talking with you guys. But I believe in his vision. I believe in his heart. I believe in the calling that the Lord has given him. And I see the honor that he gives in everything that he does, the honor and love that he gives to the Lord in everything that he does. And I see that before he does things, he goes to the word and he consults the Lord. For me, that is a recipe for success.
Well, that is so fantastic. Look, I'm loving all of this. This is great. I mean, it really is. And again, Patric, this is a testament on who you are. Flat out. This is a testament on who you are. And that's one of the reasons why we are really, really glad to be able to do what we're doing. Unfortunately, we're at, as much as I'd love to do a longer show on this, we are kind of running out of time. And so we do need to talk about while we're here. And to do that, we're going to bring up the goddess of the grape, Stephanie. It is your turn.
Oh, I'm enjoying this so much. And I do know that we're running out of time. So I will try to make this quick on my part, but I thought it would be fun to kind of take one of my summer favorites here and dive into some recipes that are really simple for all of us to do. And if you are not on our Community Pay It Forward One Hope fundraiser page on Facebook, definitely jump on there. It's in my link tree, which Zach flashed at the beginning when he brought me on. It's right at the top. Join us there. I posted some of these recipes there. The ones that I haven't yet, they'll be up there. But we're here for Patric. And I know you had the QR code up on the screen, Zach. Sorry. And here I am rambling because I was just, eating my popcorn and enjoying the conversation here. But if you would like to go directly to the fundraising link for Patric's organization to support all of the things that he is doing, you can open up your phone, hold up the camera right to that QR code. It will take you directly to the One Hope fundraiser that is going to support all of the efforts and all of the things that Patric is doing. And of course, for every $50 we raise collectively as a group, I am going to personally donate an additional $25. So think of it this way: every 2 cases of wine, $75 donation to all of the efforts and everything that, Patric is working on. So if you need to, you can type that link in your browser too. I forgot to mention that. So if the QR code, if you're not comfortable with that, right underneath that image was the direct link to the fundraising page. But let's dive in. Okay, so if you are brand new to One Hope and haven't heard of it before, we are a cause-centered winery out of Napa Valley. What does that mean? Every single bottle of wine that we sell gives back to make an impact. And what I love most about doing this is that we have this incredible platform to be able to talk to these incredible nonprofits of our choice, like Patric's, and be able to support them through, a simple refill on wine, through gifting wine. And of course, we ship across the US. So you can send a gift and know that your donation is going to a really important cause at the same time. We are approaching $10 million that we've donated as a company to date to over 42,000 different nonprofit organizations. So really
that is
awesome.
So fantastic.
I can't wait until we can announce we've hit the $10 million mark, but I know we are over 9.7 million at this point, and we're getting close. And we have some of the most incredible winemakers in the industry. So we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we take the wine seriously, and love the fundraising focus. So, okay, I will stop talking about background stuff. Let's dive into the fun stuff. I really wanted to highlight our Vintner Collection Sparkling Brut. This is a 90-point rated wine. This is one of my favorites for regular sipping and for celebrations. Of course, it's a bubbly. It's delicious. So aside from drinking it chilled or the traditional mimosas, I thought it would be really fun to explore some great summer recipes featuring our Sparkling Brut. And just in case you need a refresher, this fresh and delightful brut has a mixture of pineapple and citrus notes, and they're combined with green apple. So the palate is intense and weighted with a lasting creamy finish. Some really great food pairings for this wine is fish and chips, which is great for the warmer months this time of year, lemon tart, melon salad, and our winemaker's favorite, potato chips. I personally find that this brut is loved by sweet and dry wine lovers because it sits right there in the middle, and even beer drinkers tend to really enjoy this one. So, all right, 3 recipes. I'm going to try to talk fast because we only have 5 minutes. But if you miss something, go to our page because the recipes are going to be there. All right, American melon is the first recipe that I want to talk about. Watermelon is such a summer staple in American homes. And is there anything more refreshing on a hot summer day them watermelon. From salads to cocktails, watermelon recipes are popping up all over the web, and we simply can't get enough of them. So our American melon is the perfect summer cocktail, light with watermelon flavor, and it's so incredibly easy to recreate. So all you need is a melon baller and you're good to go. This takes about 10 minutes to prep and serve. If you'd like it fresh, if you'd like it frozen, give yourself 1 to 2 hours, and this recipe is going to yield 6 drinks. All you need is our sparkling brut and 1 small watermelon. So the directions, here we go. You're going to cut your watermelon in half lengthwise. Oh, I just saw a little side note here. That watermelon is Pat's favorite. I'm so happy. That makes me really easy to make too. So you're going to cut your watermelon in half lengthwise, cut a 1-inch slice from one of your halves, and cut it into 6 small triangles. These will be your garnish. Using a melon baller, scoop multiple spheres out of your watermelon until you've used up the remainder of your melon. If frozen melon balls are desired, place on a baking sheet and freeze for 1 to 2 hours. You're going to place 3 to 6 melon balls in each glass and just top it with sparkling brut. Cheers. So that one's simple, easy to do. I like simple.
This one looks so delicious.
Yes, here we go. So this one is the fizzy floaty. So just like the one in a melon cocktail, this recipe is so easy, and you can do it with your eyes shut under a cool cabana. Whip it up, pour into a glass, and enjoy your fizzy floaty while lounging on a giant flamingo floaty. Here we go. So your ingredients are your favorite pint of sherbet. So we recommend raspberry or strawberry. 1 Hope's sparkling brut, fresh blackberries for garnish. And the directions are to place 1 scoop of ice cold sorbet into a glass and top it with 1 Hope brut. Add your fresh blackberries and top it with a straw or sip it straight out of the glass as you watch the fruity sorbet fizz away. So really, again, super simple to recreate and serve poolside, all the things fun for summer, or maybe even on the go, because this one's really easy. Okay, last but not least, this one is called Mint to Be Sparkling Mojito. So mojitos are great for are a great summer crowd pleaser, but have you ever had a mojito with sparkling wine? If you haven't, you're seriously missing out. So try this recipe, and we're sure you're going to forget the sweat and feel like you've been transported to a relaxing island vacation. All right, your ingredients that you need for this one is white rum, 1 Hope sparkling brut, mint, lime, blackberries, raspberries, and simple syrup. So a little bit more on the ingredients with this one. Again, if you're missing anything here, go to that Linktree link, and the top link is our fundraising page, and you can grab these recipes there. All right, directions. Muddle 3 blackberries, 3 raspberries, and a few sprigs of mint and set aside. Add 1 ounce of fresh lime juice and 1 ounce of simple syrup to a shaker with ice. Add 1 ounce of white rum and your muddled berries and mint. Shake and pour into a glass with ice. Add fresh mint, a few fresh berries, and top with sparkling wine. Shake, stir, and sip all summer long. So be sure to tell us which recipe you decide to create and throw a picture into our group page on Facebook. And that's all.
Yep, and share any recipes that you may have. Be a little creative, and let's have some fun with this. Once again, every bottle of wine purchased throughout the rest of this month goes to Patrick and helps him with everything that they're doing. And folks, let's be honest here. If you cannot feel a kinship with this man after this show today, well, you might not have a heart. And let's be honest, because I mean, you've heard a lot from a lot of people, a lot of great people. And Patrick, coming from myself, I want to tell you, I feel so much better knowing you. You know, haven't known you for a long time, but known you for a great time. And that's important. So, and I really look forward to working more with you and, you know, getting to know each other and getting to help people, because that's what we're here to do. So, I want to thank everyone. Aya, thank you for joining us from Singapore, which is awesome. Aaron, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Colton, thank you for joining us. E, stay saucy, my friend. Thank you for coming back and joining us after you were off the road. I also want to give a special shout out to Dennis for joining us and giving his input. Patrick, brother man, with love always. You know, keep up the good work. And Stephanie, you know how much I appreciate you and everything that you do. So, but hey, everybody, we are out of time for this week. I want to thank you guys very much for joining us. Please remember that nobody has to go it alone when we all come together. If you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. Okay. If you have old clothing in your vehicle, and especially right now with these damaging temperatures, or up north where you're flooding and the smoke and everything is dangerous, if you can help somebody, make sure you do it. It doesn't take a lot. If you have something that's going to cover their skin and keep them away from the sun, you're not wearing it, get it onto their backs. Make a little too much food one night, put it in the old hillbilly Tupperware in an old butter bowl, give it to somebody who's hungry. It doesn't take a lot to help other people. Make sure you love someone out there because someone out here loves you. Let's take care of each other because, well, we're all we got. We'll see you next week. I'd like to ask everybody to stick on for just a second. I've got a couple more words I'd like to say to you guys off the air, but thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week for Pact.
Stepping out of her fear, bring me home. Out alone, show me the way. You wanna be a part of Sunset Boulevard.